Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the Starbound, watching the endless stars through the viewing screen. His coffee had gone cold an hour ago, but he didn't care. The patrol mission around Earth's outer defense grid had been quiet for weeks. It's quiet. "Captain, we're getting some strange readings," called out Lieutenant Kelly Brown from her station. Her voice carried a note of confusion that made Jake turn around. Kelly had been monitoring space traffic for 5 years. She didn't get confused easily. "What kind of readings?" Jake walked over to her console, setting down his cold coffee on the metal surface. "I'm not sure, sir. Something big is moving toward Earth, but our sensors can't get a clear picture. It's like the signals are being bent around something." Jake frowned and looked at the display screen. The readings showed empty space, but the gravity sensors told a different story. Something massive was out there, something bigger than any ship humanity had ever built. "How big are we talking about?" he asked. "If these readings are right, sir, it's the size of a small city, maybe bigger." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. In the year 2387, humanity had spread across 12 star systems. They had met other alien races, traded with some, fought with others, but nothing they had encountered was this large. "Send a message to Earth Command," Jake ordered. "Tell them we have an unknown contact approaching the system." Before Kelly could respond, the space in front of them began to shimmer. The stars seemed to bend and twist like looking through water. Then, without any warning, a ship appeared. Jake's mouth dropped open. The vessel was enormous, easily 10 miles long, and covered in what looked like flowing silver metal. Strange lights pulsed along its surface in patterns that hurt to look at directly. The ship was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "Captain," Kelly whispered, "I'm reading hundreds of life forms on that ship, but the signatures are unlike anything in our database." More ships began appearing around them. Each one was massive and elegant, making human vessels look like toys in comparison. Jake counted 12 ships before he stopped trying. They surrounded Earth like a crown of silver jewels. "This is Captain Morrison of the Earth vessel Starbound." Jake spoke into his communication system. "Please identify yourselves and state your intentions." The response came not through the speakers, but directly into his mind. The voice was deep and musical, speaking words that seemed to vibrate in his bones. "We are the eternal architects. We have traveled far to return to our children." Jake grabbed the edge of Kelly's console to steady himself. The voice in his head felt like warm honey mixed with thunder. Around the bridge, his crew members were staring at each other with wonder and fear. "Who are you calling children?" Jake managed to ask, though speaking seemed difficult with that voice still echoing in his mind. "You are, little one," we seeded. "Life across 1,000 worlds. Humanity is our creation, our greatest work. We have returned to claim what is ours." The largest ship began moving toward Earth. As it approached the planet, smaller vessels detached from its hull like seeds from a flower. These ships, each still larger than anything humans had built, descended toward the major cities. Jake watched the live feeds from Earth on his emergency channel. The alien ships were landing, or rather, floating just above the ground in the centers of major cities. New York, London, Tokyo, Moscow. Every major population center now had a silver giant hovering over it. "Kelly, get me a connection to Mars Colony," Jake ordered. "I want to speak with Lieutenant Amy Carter." Amy Carter was a xenobiologist stationed on Mars. If anyone could make sense of what was happening, it would be her. The connection took a few minutes to establish. "Jake, are you seeing this?" Amy's voice crackled through the communication system. Her usually calm tone was strained with excitement and worry. "I'm seeing it, but I'm not believing it," Jake replied. "What do you make of these aliens? They're calling themselves our creators, but something doesn't feel right. I've been watching the feeds from Earth. Their demonstrations of power are impressive, but they follow very specific patterns. It's like they're following a script. Jake nodded, even though Amy couldn't see him. He had been thinking the same thing. The aliens had stopped a hurricane over the Atlantic Ocean with what looked like a simple hand gesture. They had healed sick people by touching them. They had turned a desert in Africa into a green garden in minutes. But Amy was right. Each miracle followed the same pattern. The aliens would gather a crowd, make a speech about their divine nature, then perform exactly one miracle before moving on. There's something else, Amy continued. I've been monitoring their biological signatures. From here, they're definitely alien, but some of the readings don't make sense. It's like parts of their bodies aren't natural. Before Jake could respond, the voice returned to his mind, stronger this time. Children of Earth, we are Vorthok the Resplendent, first among the eternal architects. We have watched your species grow and struggle. We've seen your wars, your hatred, your violence, but we have also seen your potential. Jake looked at the main viewing screen. The image had changed to show a figure standing on one of the floating ships above New York. The alien was 15 feet tall, with skin that looked like living crystal. Light pulsed through its body in slow, hypnotic waves. When it moved, reality seemed to bend around it. We offer you a choice, Vorthok continued, its mental voice reaching every human mind on Earth and beyond. Join us in the divine covenant. Accept your place as our children, our servants, our worshippers. In return, we will give you peace, prosperity, and protection from the dangers of the galaxy. Jake watched the news feeds as millions of people fell to their knees in the streets. World leaders were already making speeches about humanity's new divine protectors. The president of the Americas was calling it the greatest day in human history. And if we refuse? Cake asked, though he wasn't sure if the alien could hear individual thoughts. Refusal brings correction, Vorthok replied, and Jake could feel the smile in that mental voice. We have dealt with stubborn children before. Divine correction helps them see the truth of their place in the universe. For the next few hours, Jake watched humanity surrender. One by one, world governments dissolved themselves and handed power to human priests who claimed to speak for the eternal architects. Anyone who questioned the aliens or their intentions was taken aboard the floating ships for divine correction. They returned hours later, smiling and peaceful, speaking only of their love for their divine creators. But not everyone surrendered. In the outer colonies, far from the alien ships, pockets of resistance began to form. Jake received encrypted messages from Amy Carter on Mars, from Dr. Ben Rodriguez in the asteroid belt, from dozens of others who refused to bow down to these self-proclaimed gods. Something is very wrong here. Amy's latest message read, I've been analyzing the energy signatures from their miracles. The patterns are too regular, too controlled. This isn't divine power, Jake. This is technology, very advanced technology, designed to look like magic. Jake looked out at the alien fleet surrounding Earth, beautiful, powerful, and terrifying. But Amy was right. Something felt wrong about the whole situation. Gods didn't need to follow scripts. Gods didn't need to harvest human minds for correction. Kelly, he said quietly, send a coded message to all human ships in the outer system. Tell them to maintain radio silence and avoid contact with the alien vessels, and start collecting every piece of data we can about these eternal architects. Something tells me we're going to need it. The age of false gods had begun, but humanity had always been good at fighting back against bullies, no matter how big they claimed to be. 6 months had passed since the eternal architects arrived on Earth. Amy Carter crouched in her hidden laboratory beneath the Mars Colony Research Center, studying samples that could change everything. Her hands shook slightly as she adjusted the microscope settings. One more time, the biosamples had been incredibly difficult to obtain. During one of the healing ceremonies on Earth, A brave doctor named Paul Grant had managed to collect skin cells that the aliens had shed while touching sick patients. He smuggled the samples off-world in a medical supply shipment, risking his life to get them to Amy. What she saw under the microscope made her stomach turn cold. The alien cells looked normal at first glance, but hidden deep inside were tiny machines. Microscopic robots were woven throughout their tissue like metal threads in fabric. The beings calling themselves gods were part machine. This explains everything, Amy whispered to herself, making notes on her encrypted tablet. The healing powers, the weather control, the mind manipulation, it was all advanced technology disguised as divine miracles. Amy sent her findings through the secret communication network that had grown among the resistance. Captain Jake Morrison received her message while hiding in the outer rim of the asteroid belt. Dr. Ben Rodriguez, a former NASA physicist now living in a stolen mining ship, confirmed Amy's discovery using his own equipment. The energy signatures match perfectly. Ben transmitted back. I've been tracking their power sources for months, not drawing energy from some divine realm. They're using fusion reactors hidden inside their bodies, combined with these microscopic machines Amy found. Jake felt a mixture of relief and anger as he read the reports. Relief that his suspicions had been correct, and anger at how easily humanity had been fooled. The beautiful, glowing beings who claimed to be gods were just very advanced con artists, but the news from Earth was getting worse every day. The eternal architects were becoming more demanding. They no longer just wanted worship and obedience. They wanted tributes. The floating temples that hovered over major cities had begun requesting specific offerings: rare metals, advanced computer systems, and worst of all, people. The aliens claimed they needed the brightest human minds to serve in their sacred temples. Families watched in horror as their children, the smartest and most creative ones, were taken up into the silver ships. Jake had tried to contact his sister Maria, who lived in Chicago. The last message he received from her was heartbreaking. Her teenage son, Danny, a brilliant young artist, had been selected for temple service. Maria had begged the human priests to let her son stay, but they said it was a divine honor that could not be refused. They took him 3 days ago, Maria's message had said. We haven't heard anything since. The priests say the chosen ones are too blessed to communicate with ordinary humans anymore. But Jake, I saw Danny's face when they took him. He was terrified. Lisa Hayes, a former communications officer, now working with the resistance, had been trying to intercept alien transmissions for months. Her small team worked from a hidden base in the ruins of an abandoned space station. Most of the alien communications were in languages that human computers couldn't decode, but Lisa was patient and clever. Finally, she caught a break. The aliens had been using human communication satellites to coordinate their operations, assuming that humans were too primitive to detect or understand their signals. Lisa managed to break through their encryption using a combination of human code-breaking techniques and captured alien technology. What she found made her blood run cold. The messages revealed that Earth was just the latest stop on a long journey of conquest. The Eternal Architects had played the same god trick on dozens of other worlds. Species after species had fallen for the deception, surrendering their freedom for the promise of divine protection. Even worse, transmissions revealed what really happened to the people taken into the temples. Lisa's hands trembled as she translated the alien reports. The humans weren't being blessed or elevated. They were being used as living batteries, their neural energy harvested to power alien technology. This is monstrous, Lisa transmitted to Jake and the other resistance leaders. They're feeding on human minds like vampires feed on blood. Every person they take into those temples is being slowly drained to death. Jake received Lisa's report while his ship was hiding behind a large asteroid near Jupiter. His crew had been living on emergency rations for weeks, afraid to approach any inhabited areas where the aliens might detect them. The news about the harvesting operations filled him with a rage he had never felt before. "How many?" he transmitted back. "How many people have they taken?" Lisa's response came an hour later. "Based on the transmission logs, at least 50,000 from Earth alone. And Jake, there's something else. The aliens aren't actually gods at all. They're not even that advanced compared to some of the species they've conquered. They're just very good at this con game." Amy Carter had reached similar conclusions from her biological research. The aliens were definitely advanced, but they weren't the godlike beings they pretended to be. Their technology had clear limitations and vulnerabilities that could be exploited. "Their power suits need constant recharging," Amy reported during a secret video conference with the resistance leaders. "The biological components I analyzed show signs of decay. They're not immortal gods. They're dying aliens using stolen technology to survive." Dr. Ben Rodriguez added his own disturbing discovery. "I've been tracking their resource consumption. They're using massive amounts of rare elements that can only be found on a few worlds. If we could cut off their supply lines, their power would start failing within months." The resistance was growing stronger every day. Small groups of humans across the 12 star systems were refusing to accept the divine covenant. They shared information, pooled resources, and began planning operations to rescue people from the alien temples. Jake coordinated the first rescue mission to Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, where the aliens had established a smaller temple. His team approached carefully, using stealth technology borrowed from human military ships that had gone into hiding. What they found inside the Europa temple was worse than anything Lisa's intercepted messages had described. Hundreds of humans floated in clear cylindrical pods connected to alien machines by cables that penetrated their skulls. The people were still alive, but their minds were being slowly consumed to power the temple systems. Jake's medical officer, Dr. Sandy White, examined the harvesting equipment while the team worked to free the prisoners. "This is incredibly sophisticated," she reported quietly. "They're not just taking energy, they're absorbing memories, creativity, everything that makes humans unique." Among the prisoners, Jake found his nephew Danny. The boy was unconscious in one of the pods, his face pale and thin. Jake carefully disconnected the alien cables and lifted Danny out of the pod. The boy's eyes opened slowly, confused and frightened. "Uncle Jake," Danny whispered. "I had the strangest dreams. There were voices in my head, taking pieces of my thoughts." The rescue mission saved 93 people from the Europa facility, but it also revealed the true scope of the alien operation. The harvesting technology was spread across dozens of facilities throughout human space. Thousands of people were being slowly murdered to feed the false gods. Addiction to neural energy, as Jake's ship carried the rescued prisoners back toward the hidden resistance bases. Amy Carter transmitted her latest and most important discovery. "I found their weakness." Her message read, "The microscopic machines in their bodies can be disrupted by specific electromagnetic frequencies. I'm working on a weapon that could shut down their technology completely. These false gods can be killed, Jake, and I think it's time we showed them what happens when you mess with humanity." The war against the false gods was about to begin. Lisa Hayes sat in the command center of the hidden resistance base, her fingers flying over multiple keyboards at once. Today was the day they would expose the truth to all of humanity. Operation Pandora's Box was about to begin. For weeks, Lisa and her team had been preparing to hack into every communication network across human space simultaneously. They had recordings of the alien harvesting facilities, Amy Carter's scientific proof that the gods were frauds, and testimonies from rescued prisoners. Everything humanity needed to see the truth was ready to broadcast. "Are all stations ready?" Lisa asked through her headset. Mars relay is online, came Amy Carter's voice from the red planet. Asteroid base is ready, reported Dr. Ben Rodriguez. Jupiter. Station is go, confirmed Captain Jake Morrison from his hidden position near the gas giant. Lisa took a deep breath and looked at the master control switch. Once she pressed it, there would be no going back. The false gods would know that humanity had discovered their secret, and they would respond with violence. Broadcasting in 3, 2, 1, Lisa said. Coast to switch across 12 star systems. Every television screen, computer monitor, communication device suddenly displayed the same message. The regular programming cut out and was replaced by footage from inside the alien harvesting facility on Europa. Humans floating in pods, their minds being drained by mechanical parasites claiming to be gods. Amy Carter's calm voice narrated the broadcast, explaining her scientific discoveries. These beings are not gods, okay? They are aliens using advanced technology to trick us. The proof is in their biology. They are part machine, part organic, and completely mortal. The broadcast showed microscopic images of alien cells with their hidden machinery, showed energy readings that proved their miracles were just advanced science. Most importantly, it showed the rescued prisoners, including Jake's nephew Danny, describing their horrible experiences in the temples on Earth. Billions of people stopped what they were doing and stared at their screens in shock. In the floating temples above major cities, the alien priests began to panic as their human servants started asking questions. The reaction from the eternal architects was swift and furious. Vorthok, the resplendent, abandoned his usual calm mental voice and spoke with cold anger that made every human within range clutch their heads in pain. Your defiance brings suffering, the alien leader projected into millions of minds at once. We have destroyed civilizations far greater than yours. Your resistance is meaningless. But instead of cowering in fear, humanity responded with something the aliens had never encountered before. Anger. Pure, righteous, burning anger at being lied to and used. On Earth, crowds of people gathered around the floating temples and began shouting demands for answers. Okay? The human priests who had served the aliens tried to maintain order. Okay? But even they were shaken by the evidence they had seen in New York. A crowd of 10,000 people surrounded the temple floating above Central Park. They threw rocks and debris at the silver hole while chanting for the release of their stolen children. Similar scenes played out in every major city on Earth. Captain Jake Morrison watched the live feeds from his hidden position and felt pride swell in his chest. Humanity was finally fighting back, but the aliens were not finished. From the largest temple ship, smaller vessels began emerging like angry wasps from a disturbed nest. These ships were different from the elegant silver vessels humans had seen before. They were dark, angular, and covered with weapon systems the children require. Correction, Vorthok announced, his mental voice now filled with contempt. We will teach you the price of defying your creators. The first attack came without warning. Energy beams lanced down from the warships, striking government buildings and military bases. The weapons didn't destroy their targets completely, but left them twisted and wrong, as if reality itself had been bent around them. But humanity was ready. Jake Morrison and the Resistance had spent months preparing for this moment. As soon as the alien warships revealed themselves, human military vessels emerged from hiding places throughout the solar system. The fighting was unlike anything in human history. Alien energy weapons clashed with human plasma cannons and nuclear missiles. The aliens had superior technology, but humanity had something they didn't expect: tactics based on chaos and unpredictability. Amy Carter had shared her research on alien weaknesses with every human ship. The electromagnetic pulse weapons she had developed were crude compared to alien technology, but they worked. When the first EMP blast hit an alien fighter, the elegant silver craft suddenly went dark and began tumbling helplessly through space. "It works." Amy's excited voice came through the communication network. "The EMP disrupts their control systems. They're not invincible." Jake led a squadron of modified human fighters against a group of alien warships near Mars. The battle was fierce, with energy beams lighting up the darkness of space like deadly fireworks. But when Jake's EMP torpedo struck the lead alien ship, something amazing happened. The silver hull split open like a cracked egg, revealing the truth inside. The pilot was not a glowing 15-foot giant, but a small, insect-like creature, no, bigger than a human child. Without its power suit, the alien looked weak and frightened. "Look at them." Jake broadcast to all human forces. "They're just bugs in fancy armor. No wonder they had to pretend to be gods." The revelation spread through the human fleet like wildfire. The mighty eternal architects were revealed as pathetic parasites hiding inside technological shells. Every successful EMP hit showed more of the same small, weak creatures dependent on their machines for survival. On Earth, the crowds around the temples grew bolder as news of the space battles reached them. When people saw images of the true alien forms, their fear turned to contempt. Children threw stones at beings they had been forced to worship just hours before. Lisa Hayes coordinated the information war from her command center, making sure every human in the galaxy saw the images of defeated aliens crawling from their broken power suits. The psychological impact was devastating to the alien forces. Dr. Ben Rodriguez made another crucial discovery during the battle. The alien ships were not individually powered, but drew energy from central command vessels. When his team destroyed one of these power ships, an entire squadron of alien fighters went dead at once. Target their command ships, then broadcast to all human forces. Cut off the head and the body dies. The tide of battle began to turn. Human ships, working in coordinated groups, focused their attacks on alien command vessels while using EMP weapons to disable individual fighters. The aliens, who had expected easy victory over primitive humans, found themselves losing ship after ship. But the most important victory was not in space. On Earth, the floating temples began to lose power as their connection to the main fleet was disrupted. Human rescue teams stormed the facilities, freeing thousands of prisoners from the harvesting pods. Jake's sister, Maria, was among the volunteers who entered the Chicago temple. She found dozens of children, including some who had been missing for months, floating unconscious in the alien machines. As the harvesting equipment shut down, the children began to wake up. Maria cried as she pulled Jake's nephew from one of the pods. The boy was weak but alive, his eyes focusing slowly on his mother's face. "Mom," Danny whispered, "I dreamed I was being eaten by metal spiders." "You're safe now," Maria said, holding her son tight. "The fake gods can't hurt you anymore." Across the galaxy, similar scenes played out as humans fought to free their captured loved ones. The false gods who had demanded worship were revealed as common criminals, kidnappers who fed on the minds of innocent people. The war was far from over, but humanity had won the most important battle. The lie was exposed, the fear was broken, and the false gods were shown to be nothing more than bullies with fancy technology. Vorthok, his remaining forces, began retreating toward the edge of the solar system. But Jake, Morrison, and the human fleet were in pursuit. The hunters had become the hunted, and humanity was just getting started. The war had been raging for 3 months, and the false gods were getting desperate. Vorthok had abandoned all pretense of being divine, and now showed his true nature as a ruthless warlord. His remaining ships launched attack after attack on human colonies, trying to harvest as many minds as possible before his forces collapsed completely. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his new command ship. The Liberty's dawn. What had started as a small resistance had grown into the Human Liberation Fleet, with ships from every colony joining the fight. Jake had been promoted to admiral by the surviving human governments, but he didn't care about titles. He only cared about stopping the monsters who had tried to enslave his species. "Admiral, we're receiving distress calls from the Neptune mining station," reported Communications Officer Tony Mills. "Alien harvesters are attacking the facility." Jake studied the tactical display. Neptune was far from the main battle zones, which meant the aliens were getting desperate enough to attack isolated targets. "How many ships?" "Census showed 3 harvester vessels and 1 escort fighter," Tony replied. "Send a Wolfpack squadron," Jake ordered, "and tell them to disable the harvesters if possible. We need to study their technology." The Wolfpack was Jake's elite fighter squadron, led by Captain Helen Cross, a former civilian pilot who had lost her entire family to the alien harvesting operations. Her hatred for the false gods made her the perfect hunter while the Neptune rescue was underway. Amy Carter worked in her expanded laboratory on the captured alien mothership, Eternal Pride. The massive vessel had been taken 3 weeks ago in a brutal boarding action that cost many human lives, but the prize was worth the sacrifice. Inside the ship, Amy had found the aliens' central database. "Kay, you need to see this," Amy transmitted from the captured ship. Her voice was excited, but also disturbed. "I've been going through their records. These creatures aren't even the original owners of this technology." Jake's image appeared on Amy's communication screen. "Hey, what do you mean?" Amy gestured to the alien data flowing across her monitors. "The Eternal Architects are actually called the Zektar, the parasites who conquered another species called the Builders about 1,000 years ago. All their advanced technology was stolen from their victims." The revelation sent shockwaves through the human command structure. Dr. Ben Rodriguez, now serving as the fleet's chief scientist, confirmed Amy's findings from his analysis of captured alien equipment. "The parasites are dying out," Ben reported during the daily command meeting. "Their home world was destroyed in a civil war centuries ago. They had been traveling from planet to planet, posing as gods to trick civilizations into feeding them neural energy. It's the only way they can survive." Lisa Hayes had more disturbing news from her intelligence operations. "I've broken more of their communication codes. There are at least 6 other worlds currently under Zektar control. Billions of sentient beings are being harvested right now to keep these parasites alive." Jake felt anger burning in his chest as he thought about entire civilizations being slowly consumed by the false gods. "How many of the parasites are there total?" "Based on the ship manifests I've decoded," Lisa replied, "maybe 10,000 Zektar left in the entire galaxy. They're the last of their species, which explains why they're so desperate to keep feeding." Amy had been working on more than just research. Her biological warfare division had developed a virus specifically designed to attack the artificial components in Zektar physiology. The bioweapon was ready for testing, but Amy wanted to be sure it would work. "I need live specimens," Amy told Jake during a private meeting. "If we're going to end this war quickly, I need to test the virus on actual Zektar, not just their technology." Jake nodded grimly. Helen's team captured some aliens during the Neptune raid. They're being held in a secure medical bay. The testing was unpleasant, but necessary. Amy's virus proved devastatingly effective against the Zektar. The artificial components in their bodies began breaking down within hours of exposure, causing their power suits to malfunction and their life support systems to fail. "It works almost too well," Amy reported. "The virus spreads through their neural link networks. If we can infect one ship, it should spread to their entire fleet within days." But the war was spreading beyond the solar system. Reports came in from human colonies and other star systems, describing attacks by different groups of false gods. The Zektar were not the only parasitic species pretending to be divine. Dr. Rodriguez led a mission to the Centauri system, where colonists reported being attacked by beings calling themselves the Luminous Ones. These aliens used different technology, but followed the same pattern: pose as gods, demand worship, harvest neural energy. It's an epidemic, then transmitted back to Jake. There are dozens of parasitic species across the galaxy, all using the same con game. They target young civilizations that don't know any better. Made a decision that would change the course of galactic history. The Human Liberation Fleet would not stop with defeating the Zektar. They would hunt down every false god in the galaxy and free their victims. The first major victory came at the Battle of Titan, where Vorthok made his stand with the largest remaining Zektar force. The alien leader had chosen Saturn's moon as his fortress, surrounding it with defensive platforms and harvesting facilities. Lisa Hayes coordinated the human attack from the command ship, linking fighters and capital ships across the entire battle zone through quantum communication networks. The Zektar tried to use their hive mind coordination against the humans, but Lisa's system turned that advantage against them. All ships execute pattern Chaos 7. Lisa broadcast to the human fleet. Pattern Chaos 7 was one of Jake's favorite tactics. Instead of following predictable military formations, human ships would act independently, making random course changes and unpredictable attacks. The Zektar command computers couldn't calculate responses to tactics that made no logical sense. Human fighters dove and weaved through alien formations like angry hornets, striking targets and disappearing before the enemy could respond. Captain Helen Cross led her wolf pack in a daring raid on Vorthok's command ship, disabling its shields just as Amy's virus missiles reached their target. The virus spread through the Zektar fleet like wildfire. Ship after ship went dark as their crews succumbed to the bioweapon. The mighty false gods died choking in their own mechanical blood, their stolen technology failing them in their final moments. Vorthok himself was captured alive when his power suit failed during the battle. The being who had once demanded worship from billions turned out to be a pathetic creature the size of a large insect, its body more machine than flesh. "You think you have one?" Vorthok wheezed through his failing translator as human soldiers dragged him to a holding cell. "But there are others like us. The galaxy is full of species that will bow before power." Jake looked down at the defeated alien leader with contempt. "Then we'll have to teach them the same lesson we taught you. Nobody gets to play God over other people." The liberation of Titan's harvesting facilities revealed the true scope of Zektar cruelty. Thousands of humans had been imprisoned there, along with members of other alien species that had been conquered over the centuries. Some of the prisoners had been held for decades, their minds slowly consumed to power the false gods' technology. Among the freed prisoners, Jake found beings that looked like walking crystals, others that resembled metallic spiders, and creatures that defied easy description. All of them had been victims of the Zektar con game. "We are the Vorth," said one of the crystal beings through a translation device. "Our world fell to the false gods 50 years ago. We thought we were alone in our suffering." "You're not alone anymore," Jake replied, "and neither are we. We're going to find every world under false god control and set them free." The crystal being's faceted eyes seemed to brighten. "You would do this for strangers, for species you have never met." Jake smiled and looked around at the diverse group of freed aliens. "That's what humans do. We don't leave people behind." The final battle was about to begin. Admiral Jake Morrison stood in the command center of the massive human fleet, looking at the tactical display that showed the enemy's last stronghold. The Zektar had retreated to a hidden fortress in the space between star systems, a mobile base the size of a small planet that they called the Divine Throne. 6 months had passed since the victory at Titan. In that time, the Human Liberation Fleet had grown beyond anything Jake could have imagined. Ships from dozens of freed alien species had joined the fight against false gods everywhere. The crystal beings, called the Vorth, had contributed their advanced shield technology. Metallic spider creatures known as the Tekmar had shared their knowledge of space engineering. Even former enemies had become allies when they learned the truth about the parasites who had controlled them. All fleet commanders report status. Jake spoke into his communication system. Fourth Crystal Squadron, ready for battle, came the harmonic voice of Commander Selenoth. Tekmar Engineering Corps standing by, reported Captain Skiksdale through his mechanical translator. Human Strike Force prepared to engage, added Captain Helen Cross. Now commanding her own battle group, Amy Carter worked frantically in her laboratory aboard the flagship. She had spent weeks developing the ultimate version of her anti-sector virus, a bioweapon so powerful it could destroy every parasite on the Divine Throne within hours. But she needed to get close enough to the enemy fortress to deploy it. Jake, I'm ready with the final virus payload, Amy transmitted to the bridge. But the delivery system will require a direct attack on their main ship. Someone will have to fly right into the heart of their defenses. Jake nodded grimly. He had expected this moment would come. I'll take a fighter squadron and make the run myself. No, came a voice from behind him. Dr. Ben Rodriguez stepped onto the bridge, wearing a pilot's uniform. This is a job for someone who understands the alien technology completely. I know their systems better than anyone. Before Jake could argue, Lisa Hayes spoke up from her communication station. Okay, I'm detecting massive power buildup from the Divine Throne. They're preparing to jump to hyperspace. They escape now, we might never find them again. The Divine Throne was enormous, easily 50 miles across, covered in silver spires and dark weapon platforms. As Jake watched, smaller ships began emerging from the fortress like insects from a hive. But these weren't the elegant vessels humanity had first encountered. These ships were crude and desperate, built from scrap metal and powered by stolen technology. They're falling apart, observed Commander Zelenoth. The false gods are using their last resources to build these war machines. The battle began with a massive exchange of energy weapons that lit up the darkness of space. Human and allied ships clashed with desperate sector forces in a fight that would determine the fate of the galaxy. The aliens fought with the fury of cornered animals. This was their last chance for survival. Captain Helen Cross led her fighters in a daring assault on the Divine Lean's main weapon systems. Her squadron weaved through defensive fire, striking target after target with precision attacks. Main cannon is down, she reported, but they've got backup systems coming online. Jake watched the battle unfold while preparing for his own mission. Ben Rodriguez had loaded Amy's virus weapon into a modified torpedo, but delivering it would require flying through the heaviest defenses around the fortress core. I'm going with you, Amy announced, appearing on the bridge in a flight suit. If something goes wrong with the virus deployment, I need to be there to fix it. Absolutely not, Jake replied. It's too dangerous. Jake, I've been fighting these monsters since day one, Amy said firmly. I'm not sitting on the sidelines now. The argument was settled when Lisa detected something new on her sensors. Admiral, I'm picking up transmissions from inside the Divine Throne. There are thousands of prisoners in there. Humans, Vorth, Tekmar, and species we've never seen before. Jake felt his anger flare. Even now, at the end of their reign, the false gods were still harvesting innocent minds. How many? At least 50,000 beings, sir. Maybe more. The rescue mission became even more urgent. Jake assembled a strike team of the best pilots from all the allied species. Ben Rodriguez would carry the virus weapon, while Jake led a team to free the prisoners. Amy would coordinate the technical aspects of both missions from a command fighter. As they approached the Divine Throne, the fortress revealed its final secret. The entire structure was actually a massive harvesting facility designed to drain the neural energy from millions of beings at once. The silver spires were antennae that broadcast mental control signals, while the dark platforms housed the processing equipment that turned living minds into power for the Zactor. This is how they've survived so long, Amy realized, studying the readings. They turn entire captured populations into batteries. It's no wonder they could travel between star systems for centuries. The strike team fought their way through layers of desperate defenders. Zactar warriors in failing power suits attacked with weapons that barely functioned. Their technology breaking down as the virus Amy had already deployed through the fleet continued to spread. Ben Rodriguez reached the fortress core first, a massive chamber filled with glowing machinery that pulsed with stolen life energy. At the center of it all sat Vorthok, no longer in his power suit, but connected directly to the harvesting machinery through cables that pierced his insect-like body. "You cannot stop us," Vorthok said, his voice now a weak whisper without his technological amplification. "We are eternal. We are divine." "No," Ben replied, arming the virus weapon. "You're just parasites. And parasites die when they run out of hosts." Ben deployed Amy's weapon directly into the fortress core. The virus spread through the Zactar biological networks instantly, causing every parasite in the facility to convulse as their artificial components began failing. Warthog screamed as his connection to the harvesting machinery broke down, stolen immortality finally coming to an end. Meanwhile, Jake's rescue team fought through the prison levels, freeing captives who had been held for decades. Some were humans who had been taken in the early days of the invasion. Others were aliens from species that had been conquered so long ago that their home worlds were legends. The children, whispered an elderly human woman Jake found in one of the cells. They took the children first. Always the children. Jake helped the woman to her feet. "We'll find them all. Nobody gets left behind." The rescue operation was a success, but the cost was high. Ben Rodriguez didn't make it out of the fortress core. The Zactar's final desperate attack had damaged his fighter beyond repair. But he had stayed long enough to ensure the virus weapon completed its work. Amy Carter received Ben's final transmission as the Divine Throne began to collapse. "The virus is working perfectly. Every Zactar facility in the galaxy should be going dark right now. Tell Jake we won." As the massive fortress broke apart, its artificial gravity failing and its stolen technology finally dying, Jake led the combined fleet in a moment of silence for all those who had given their lives to end the reign of false gods. Lisa Hayes confirmed what they all hoped to hear. "I'm receiving surrender signals from Zactar facilities across the galaxy. The virus has spread to every connected system. The parasites are finished." In the aftermath, humanity did something that surprised the other species they had liberated. Instead of claiming the abandoned Zactar technology or demanding tribute from the freed worlds, they established the Galactic Liberation Council. It's dedicated to preventing future false god scenarios. Amy Carter founded the Institute for Xenobiological Truth, which sent teams across the galaxy to identify and counter deceptive alien technologies. Her researchers worked to ensure that no species would ever again mistake advanced science for divine power. Jake Morrison became the first admiral of the Free World's Defense Force, leading combined fleets of humans and allied aliens against other parasitic civilizations. The galaxy was full of bullies who preyed on weaker species. But now they faced organized resistance. Most importantly, humanity established schools and research centers on every liberated world, teaching the fundamental lesson they had learned. No being, no matter how powerful or advanced, has the right to claim godhood over another intelligent species. The age of false gods was over. The age of free peoples had begun, and humanity stood as guardians to ensure it would continue.